Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 101 of the Rise Up and Share Your Medicine podcast. I'm so delighted to be here with you. My name is Lisa Espinosa. I'm a spiritual career coach and priestess. And the intention with this podcast is to help you, to bring teachings, to bring energy healing, to bring meditations that will help you share your gifts with impact and with joy while simultaneously creating your soul led life. And as you do that, that is what's going to be the blessing for you and for the world. And so wherever you are, I have clients that come in with the focus really being their gifts. How do they share their unique gifts with the world? Maybe they're uncertain on what those gifts are. Maybe they're scared to share their gifts. They're afraid that they'll be rejected, that they're not needed in the world, that they don't have what it takes. And other clients, and usually it evolves throughout our coaching journey together, other clients are really, they want to share their gifts, and they know that the priority in the moment is to really bring their life back into alignment, to really live a life of integrity. And by integrity, I mean not in a morally, it's not any sort of moral judgment. It's just that your soul is integrated, right? That you are being led, truly led by your soul, not just when things feel really good, and also not just when things feel really hard, because sometimes it's actually easier to connect with our soul when things are really intense, right? Because it can really uh, help us see clearly our priorities. And although it's important to connect with our soul in those times, what's really going to create change is for us to always connect with our soul, regardless of the circumstances, regardless if the circumstances feel good or they feel bad, that we're always constantly being mentored by our soul. So that's why we're here. And today's podcast episode is called Expand Your Capacity. And this is so important. So I want to talk about what that means. When I'm talking about expanding your capacity, I mean you're expanding your capacity to serve, to heal, to lead, to create. You can think of it as increasing your capacity. And why is that important? It's important because we're all being called to show up even more, to become more visible, to be seen in our gifts, to step out of hiding or retreating if we've been doing that. And I say this all the time, and I'll say it again. It will look different for each of us. Your way of showing up in the world might look very different than my way. It doesn't have to be in front of a camera or in a podium, but it might be. The point is that this lifetime that we're in, right? You've probably heard this being shared in different ways in different circles. This is such a pivotal lifetime, right, in the Earth's history. And we're really, what's so amazing about this time we're living in is that there is so much light. There is so much light available, love available, psychic awareness and intuition available to support us. The veils, in many ways, are thinner than they've ever been, so that we can connect with our spirit guides, with our guardian angels in deeper ways than ever before. And simultaneously, the darkness, the intensity, right? The resistance, really ultimately what it is the resistance from the ego structure, the inverted matrix, whatever you want to call it, is also really strong because it's responding to the increased light. And so, what that means for those of us who have always felt called to service, have felt called to heal, to lead, have understood the world in a different way than others. And I'm not saying this from an egotistical way, like we're special or we're better than, but just that you might have recognized, even since childhood, that you had a divine mission, that you were here with an important purpose, And that purpose involved being an example of what is possible, being an example of living a soul led life, regardless of circumstances, of living a life with your heart open, of showing up more than you thought you could ever show up. But doing that without hustle, without efforting, without sacrificing your health and well being. And so this episode is about that. Like, how do we do that? How do you expand your capacity without falling into overworking? And if you saw my Instagram post, or it was also on Facebook, or my blog that I sent out, if you received my mailing list, if you're on my mailing list, I shared, right, those times in my life where, and I shared a picture of me when I was a seventh grade teacher back in Chicago. For those of you who are out of the US, seventh grade is like 13, 14-year olds around that age. And I was a teacher, and I still have 5 kids, but my 5 kids were all coming to school with me because they attended the same school. And every first day of school, we took a picture. So I shared that picture on my social media and in my blog, and then a more recent picture with all of them now as young adults. But the point of that was I was sharing how in those times, I was a single mom, I had 5 kids, I was a middle school teacher, I was finishing my graduate school studies, I was completing my master's in education. And I was incredibly busy. I was so busy. I was so in efforting and multitasking and working so hard that I truly do remember that when I would be in my minivan with all my kids coming back from school, right, teaching full day, and then there were my kids picking them up to go home. I would stop at a red light, and literally it felt like, okay, this is my rest at the red light. And if I sat on the couch for any reason, I felt like I would fall asleep. I couldn't even stop because I was so tired. And it was a stage in my life where I just didn't know any better. I didn't know how to do it differently. I had a lot of willpower, and I had a lot of trust and faith in my soul and in the divine. And I mean, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to that version of me. But what's so interesting is at the time, I wasn't very proud of myself at all, right? I felt behind. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And so lots happened right from that time. Lots of, working with my coaches and my therapists and prayer and my spiritual practice and my intuition opening up and all of that stuff, right? Left teaching, my kids are grown up. I'm here in this moment now in a new country, right? Living in Mexico. Having coached now for 15 years, having been in this emotional healing world for 15 years, and helping my clients and myself expand our capacity. And what I find with a lot of my students and clients, because they're all such givers, they have such big hearts, that they might be in a point in their lives, and you might resonate with this, where they can feel it. They're like, I do feel like I'm being called to do more. And when I say do more, it doesn't necessarily mean a bunch of action. It might be that you do the exact same thing you're doing now, but you do it with more love. You do it with more grace. You do it with more presence. Or for some of you, it might be doing more, right? It might be opening to seeing more clients, having more students, teaching more classes. It might be that. It will be a very unique journey. And so a lot of my clients are in that space, but they have this fear, like, I do want to serve more, I want to lead more, but I don't want to go back to hustling, to getting sick because I worked so hard, to feeling so frazzled, to feeling like I have to sacrifice myself in order to do this. And I understand, because I have really, the last 10 years have been me recovering from the first, 35 years of my life. And not that I didn't do anything. I've had a very productive decade, but it absolutely, my body just kind of gave out, right? There was so much need for me to recover. And in that recovery, there was this mentoring with my soul. There was this really asking, not only my soul, but asking the divine, asking those ascended master mentors like Mother Mary. As you know, I work very closely with her, and asking like, how did you do it? Like, how did they serve so many people and not get overwhelmed and not be in hustle energy? And what I've come to understand is that it goes back to the basic teaching, right? You are a soul having a human experience. Your soul is eternally connected to the divine. In this, your soul is in an infinite state of receptivity. That means your soul's always receiving, always filled up, always overflowing. And you have a soul. In fact, not do you have a soul, your soul has you, more accurately said. And so what does this mean? This means that my soul, your soul, everybody's soul has an infinite capacity to love, to lead, to serve. Infinite. Not like, well, I can only love 100 people. That's it. I don't have any more love to give. No, it's like an infinite capacity. And if our soul has an infinite capacity, that means we can access that as well. And so that's the first thing that's really important to know, for us to remember, like, oh, that's right. My soul does not get overwhelmed. My soul does not worry, oh, will I have enough energy to do this? My soul is literally overflowing with abundance, with energy, with love, with service, with grace. And so our work is in connecting with our soul every day to increase our capacity. And so as I was listening, because there's so much synchronicity around this, as I've been, reflecting on this, praying about this for so long, then also one of my teachers has been talking about it as well. And one of the things that she did is she looked up the definition of capacity. And I was like, oh, I'm going to look that up too. And so this is the definition I found online. Capacity, the maximum amount that something can contain. Okay, the maximum amount that something can contain. So if we look at this glass of water has a certain capacity. If I keep pouring water, it's going to overflow, right? And often we think we have a limited capacity too. It's like, I just have this amount. I can't handle more. But the truth is that your soul doesn't have a finite capacity. It's infinite. And so when we remember that, we can start to have the intention of increasing our capacity. But we can only ask that, we can only set the intention when we understand that, because if not, what can happen is you might pray, you might be like, please, okay, God, I want to serve more people. I want to help more people. But at the same time, you're closing the door because you're like, but I don't want to get overwhelmed, but only send me really nice people. But like, I'm really, really sensitive. So like, I can't handle too much. And so then it's like we're simultaneously opening the door and closing it at the same time, right? Or putting our foot on the accelerator and on the brake at the same time. And I understand, like I've done this many, many times. But that is limiting our influence that we can have in the world. You also need to understand that your soul is not interested in overwhelming you. Your soul knows that you have sacred contracts with certain people that you're here to help. So whether it's pleasant or not, the people that will be sent to you are the people you're meant to help. And there's some people that you're not meant to help. It doesn't mean somebody else is not meant to help them. They will find their person. But I have learned in a very deep way throughout my life, and this year, especially in these last few months, I've gone through a lot of initiations of learning that sometimes you get sent people that cross your path that might not be the easiest people for you to connect with. They might bring up challenges, but they are people you're here to help. So I want to be really clear. I am not suggesting that you have no boundaries, that you go into codependent relationships with people, that you go into people pleasing or rescuing. That is a whole different thing. Your soul's not interested in that at all, right? And so, of course, this still means that you say no to certain things, right? I say no all the time, right? There's, people that might invite me to participate in certain things that it's just a no for me, and it's no judgment, it's just a no. So increasing your capacity doesn't mean say yes to everything and say yes to everyone and just no, it's say yes to your soul over and over and over and over and over. Say yes to your soul and ask your soul, please help me heal what is in the way of me increasing my capacity, because this is what I kind of want to really highlight. What is the difference between hustle and increasing your capacity, right? And so what it is, and one of my coaches is so brilliant, she really helped name this for me. It's like I knew it was in my heart, but I hadn't articulated it. And so what it is, when you go into hustle, into working really, really hard and putting a ton of effort, on the other side of that, even if you got some really good results, even if you're like, I did help a lot of people, I did create a lot of stuff, but you hustled your way through that. What does that mean? Hustling, what it means is that all the effort came from your human self, that you forgot. And when I say you, I'm meaning me, right? We all do this. So please do not feel like I'm calling you out or I'm judging you. It's like we all do this, right? Where we focus on a task or a project that we want to create, and we forget that our soul, that God, the divine, is doing the heavy lifting, right? That it is actually an act of surrender from the divine, not giving up, but surrendering, allowing ourselves to be supported by source. But when we forget that, even if we think we didn't forget, and we're like, okay, God, help me do this, and then we just work. We don't let ourselves stop. We do all this stuff. We try to control everything. We're afraid to let go. And on the other side, even though we created all these things, we are exhausted. We are depleted. We need to take months off to recover. We might have resentment, and our capacity actually decreases. On the other side of that, we're actually more scared to serve. How do I say that? Our fear has increased. Our fear of serving people has increased rather than decreased. So that's how you know, oh, I totally, that was a hustle energy. And you don't want to judge yourself for it. It's just like almost like this scientific observation, like, oh, because we're all being mentored by the divine and learning the difference. Whereas the other thing is very different. So I can look back on times where I'm thinking of one specifically that came to mind, where I was invited to help a teacher that I really admire. And I went to the event to help. It was a volunteer position. I was super excited. It was such a great opportunity. I knew I was going to get to meet so many wonderful people, but I didn't realize how exhausting it was going to be. Like, it was like morning till nighttime serving service. And it wasn't all like glamorous priestess work, right? It was also folding up chairs, cleaning up dirty Kleenexes from the floor. It was like humbling stuff for like 3 days straight, morning till nighttime. I was exhausted. I mean, I took that plane back home and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And I had a lot of thoughts about it, and I did have to recover, not for months, but for a week probably. But what I noticed on the other side of that experience was my capacity to serve and love people and be present for people and hold a container, create a container for a lot of people had increased. My self-concept had increased. I was like, oh, I can totally handle loving more people, serving more people. So that was an example of a situation where, yes, I worked really hard, but on the other side, my trust in myself to serve was increased, not diminished. Whereas other times I've had other experiences, particularly right now, some are coming when I was a 7th grade teacher, where I was in charge of certain things. not with my students, but just within the school or the school district. And it was just hustle. And afterwards, I was like, I am so exhausted. I'm so depleted. I never want to do that again. I never want to be in charge of a committee again. I'm terrified of leading groups, right? It was a whole different energy. So that's how you know. That's when you can ask yourself that question, like, am I? And in the moment, it can be tricky to know. You want to really ask. You want to ask the divine, is this situation helping expand my capacity to love? Because one thing that's required for us to expand our capacity is we have to challenge our capacity, right? Like, it's just like lifting weights, right? If you never lift weights, well, your muscles never grow. But let's say you start lifting 1 pound weights, like dumbbells, right? You start doing that. And you're like, wow, this is like really easy. I can totally do this. If you stay with 1 pound weights, that's all you'll be able to carry. That's it. But if you're interested in increasing your capacity, you've got to add more weight, right? Even if it's 2 pound weights only. So it's the same thing with increasing our capacity. In order to expand it, it must be challenged in some way, right? And so, what blocks the expansion is wounds, is old burdens, is our thoughts, is our fears. And so, when we go into this meditation right now that I'll lead you through, it's going to be to ask your soul to give you guidance on where you are being guided to increase, to expand your capacity. Maybe for you is what I said before. Maybe your soul is guiding you to, if you're a wellness professional or a service based, if you provide services, maybe your soul is like, yep, you need to increase your capacity to serve more people, have more clients, have more students. Maybe for you, it's different. Maybe it's like, no, maybe that's not where you're at. Maybe it's like your soul is saying, increase your capacity to be patient with people, to love people, to connect with people, to engage with people, to be present with people, to bless people. Right? Last in episode 100, if you missed it, I highly recommend you go back and see that, where we chanted the mantra, right? I am blessed and I am a blessing. So, please do not doubt that your soul is guiding you to expand your capacity in one way or another. And so, and I know I'm totally going through that right now. I'm like expanding, 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 expanding capacity. So, we're going to do an inner journey with that. I want to remind you before we go inwards that next week, the 25th, starts this 3-day soul immersion. I'm so excited, where I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this and really going over those foundational steps. Pause, receive, take action. Pause, receive, take action. I know that sounds so simple, and it's like, why do we need to take classes on that? Trust me, we do. I still need to take classes on that. I still need to hear this, because it is the foundation of everything. So this is a free 3-day event. It'll start the 25th, Wednesday the 25th. Then it'll go to Thursday the 26th. We'll take a little break to integrate during the weekend and complete on Monday. Of course, those of you who can attend live will be entered in that special giveaway, and your name will be entered every day that you're live. So if you are able to come 3 days in a row live, your name will be in that magical cauldron for 3 times. And so registration is open for that already. You can go to my website, lisaespinosa.net. Also on Facebook, Lisa ESP23. You can go to the events. The link is there. Obviously, on my mailing list, I'm sending invitations there. So I will put all this also in the comments. I would love for you to join. It's going to be such a special event, really a jumpstart. And I'm going to be inviting you to I've never done this before, a group. You know what? I'm not going to say anything else, but it's going to start in October. October 28th is the first day. So anyway, I'll be inviting people in next week's soul immersion. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin and go within. So I invite you to close your eyes and take some deep breaths. With your breath, call all of your energy back to you. Right? Turn on that magnet in your heart to call back all of your energy. If any of your focus, your power, your parts are anywhere else, sometimes we do that unconsciously. Just call them back. It's like you're a magnet and you're calling them all back to you. And at the same time, I invite you to bring your awareness to your hips, your pelvis, and visualize those roots of light going down your legs and out the bottoms of your feet, deep into the heart of the earth. And let yourself release anything that's unnecessary, anything that isn't yours, and just allow your soul to be in charge of that. So you don't need to analyze, you don't need to control anything, just let it happen. And I invite you to close your eyes. And as you do that, bring your awareness to your beautiful heart. And if it helps, you can bring the palms of your hands over your heart center as I'm doing like this for a moment. You could either leave your hands there or just do it for a moment and then rest your hands. And notice that at your heart, there's a beautiful rose, a rose made of light. And its rose petals are so open and radiant. And they're emanating this beautiful scent, this heavenly scent of roses. And this rose in your heart starts to radiate all of this beautiful light until it's filling your body, but it's also expanding outside of your body, and you're sitting in the beautiful rose of light. You're sitting at the center of a rose of light. So as you look in front of you, there's these rose petals, big rose petals of light. And you know that your soul created this beautiful rose for you. And as you sit in the center of this rose, you're asking your soul, beautiful soul, where in my life are you guiding me to expand my capacity? Show me, where are you guiding me to expand my capacity? Is it expanding how many people you serve? More students, more clients? Is it expanding your ability to keep an open heart? Is it expanding your ability to have compassion for yourself so that you can then overflow with compassion for the world? Is it expanding your capacity to be in dark places? And when I mean dark places, I mean places with pain. Maybe you are one of those earth angels that are here to bring in a resonance of light to places that have a lot of pain. And so ask your soul, show me, where are you guiding me to expand my capacity? And as you get that answer in your heart, notice whatever fears come up for you. And even if there are no fears, ask your soul, beautiful soul, what is in the way of me expanding my capacity? What thoughts, what fears, what beliefs are in the way? And notice, maybe it's, I can't handle it, I don't know enough, I don't have enough energy, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm too sensitive. Just notice, what are the thoughts, the beliefs that are in the way? And notice that your soul is not judging you in any way. Maybe there's a belief that you will get hurt. And so, as you sit here in this beautiful rose made of light, start to notice now that the rose petals are starting to vibrate. And whether you heard an answer or not from your soul, know that what is happening as these rose petals vibrate, they are helping you to release. They're raising your frequency, raising your vibration, so that these old thoughts, old beliefs, old fears, old wounds start to dissolve in this high frequency of this rose of light. And those rose petals vibrate, and then the rose petals start to spin around you. You're very still. You're not getting dizzy, but you know that they're vibrating and they're speeding around you so quickly it almost looks like a solid wall. But let this happen. Your whole auric field, your whole energy body, your whole cells are all vibrating, connecting with that version of you that has already expanded her capacity, or his capacity, or their capacity. And just let yourself receive this beautiful blessing and activation. If it is your intention to increase your capacity, set that intention now. Say, beautiful soul, I don't, maybe, and you can be very honest. Maybe you're like, I don't know how to do this, or I have fears about doing this, but I want to expand my capacity. I want to be of greater service. I want to be an instrument for the divine in a way that blesses the world and blesses me, doesn't hurt me, but blesses me. And know that your soul has heard you. And with that, we bring the palms of our hands together and we bow to each other and our own heart. And we end this inner journey with a namaste. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. This was so lovely. And if you want to share in the chat anything that came up for you, whether it was clarity on where you're being guided to expand your capacity, or clarity on what were the things that are in the way. For me, a big thought was, I will be hurt. That was a thought that came up for healing. And, or if you're watching the replay, share it in the comments. And as I said, the 3-day soul immersion begins September 25th. If you're called to join, I would love, love, love to see you. The replay will be available for a limited time. And also remember, I forgot to say this, I have sessions open this month in September for a breakthrough consultation. And this is an opportunity for you to talk to me privately and share with me the things, right? The things that you feel like, the help that you feel you need, right? And I will listen without judgment and help you really identify what are the blocks, what are the obstacles, and what is the simple plan, a solution to help you with that. And then you get to implement it. Now, if I feel I can help you further, I will share the details of my coaching program, and then I will help you implement it, right? Because it is very powerful to have someone along your side as your ally, as your mentor, as your supporter, as your cheerleader, as all of those things. So I'll put the link to that as well. I have some slots left this month. You're welcome, Roxana. And I'm just going to pull a card. Let's do a surrender card, and then we shall go. So this is for everyone here live and watching the replay. Oh my gosh, this is so perfect. Surrender the idea that you can fix someone. It's time for a relationship to shift. It doesn't work to try to fix someone. Each person must be accountable for his or her own healing. So this is so perfect because, as I kept saying, I think one of the biggest reasons that we are afraid to expand our capacity, especially if you're a sensitive person as I am, and really all my clients fall into this category, is that we're afraid that what expanding our capacity means is that we have to go fix people and we have to go change their mind about things and we have to somehow control their behavior. And we probably know what this card is saying already, that that's actually impossible. We can't do that. And so please know, expanding our capacity to serve and heal has nothing to do with changing people's behavior, right? It's first of all showing them an example of what is possible, mirroring back for them who they truly are, right? Being able to hold that vision of their healed self without judgment, being a presence of compassion for wherever they are. Even if parts of us can go into judgment, it is our job to not go into judgment, but also not go into rescuing or fixing. So I love that this card showed up, and actually I'm being called to a partner card. Oh my gosh, just look at this gorgeous little bear. So it says, one of a kind. From the moment you emerged into this world, you've had extraordinary talents. You understand starlight, animal voices, and all things magical. So what a beautiful partnership here. It's like it's your soul really reminding us, please know, expanding your capacity isn't suggesting you go out and fix people or that you stay in relationships that do not honor you. Right? And this little bear is like, and you're so talented. Oh my gosh, you're a magical person and you have so many gifts to share. Expand your capacity, right? So I love this. He's so cute. He looks like Paddington, kind of. I just saw that movie like a few weeks ago. I was crying. I loved it. All right. Anyway, lots of love, everyone. I hope to see you soon. And yeah, next week for episode 102, next week to start our soul immersion. I mean, there are so many amazing things coming up and can't wait to share that with you. Bye, everyone.